Let's do it live.
What's going
Hey,
on,
what's
you
up, boys?
guys? This is going to be Bona Fide Talk. This is groundbreaking. This is earth-shattering. This is the introduction of our podcast. My name is Garrett Lusk. I'm joined by three legends that I'd like to let them introduce themselves. If you guys want to go ahead and take that over.
Yeah, I'll run with it. What's up, guys? This is Brian.
What's up, guys?
Oh my God.
That was about the most Brian Edwards introduction. Nothing
Jesus.
else. No, he doesn't have a last
What's
name.
up, guys?
He doesn't have a passion. He doesn't care. He's
Nothing.
just Brian. Hey. So Brian, real quick, I want to build on that. So
what's your last name, Brian?
Yeah, at least give us your last name. Are you an alien? Do you not have a last name? Like, how's that work?
I'm a lizard. My last name is Eduardo.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
All right, can we restart this? This is bad.
No, dude, we're
No,
live.
we're
Perfect.
running with
This
it.
is
All right.
perfect.
Live and recorded.
All right, so
All right, what's up, everybody? I'm Cameron Campbell.
okay, guys, that was awesome. Podcast is over. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Nah, just kidding. So, real quick, each of you guys, now we know your names. Will y'all just give us just like a quick little 1 minute description about yourself, just real quick. So, Brian Eduardo, would you start off? Just tell us just something really quick about you.
Really quick. So, just started work full-time, work for a technology consulting firm here in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting, groundbreaking stuff. Doing the Salesforce. So,
Cool.
I've used that.
Dog.
All right, I'll. Yeah, I was just gonna transition into that. So I've been in sales in the past. I use Salesforce and stuff. Not doing sales right now. We're just working with my dad a little bit and picking up some new skills during this quarantine. I'll talk about it a little bit, like woodworking and stuff around the house.
Right on.
What branch of the military is that, Blake?
That's so easy, dude. Like, literally, if you're breathing, you can do that. Come on. The fun fact about Blake is that he got a marketing degree. The marketing degree turned into a nuclear physicist teacher in the Navy, right? Right. Right on. So last and definitely least, again, this is Garrett. So I am one of the few lucky people who can call themselves 2020 college graduates. So right now I'm currently navigating the wonderful, beautiful waters of post-coronavirus, coming into the workforce, coming into reality. So actually, as of today, I guess this is an announcement to the boys as well. I have been in grad school for the last month, and due to a change in circumstances, I've actually pulled out of grad school today. So now,
nice.
Yeah. So we got some big changes coming up.
You done with school for the foreseeable future?
Done with school for the foreseeable future, man. We
Nice.
was going into an MBA program and went in with the expectation that things would kind of be back to normal by beginning of the fall semester, and things are not going to be back to normal by the beginning of the fall semester. So we got an email before the 4th of July weekend that things are going to change and going to be fully online for the fall. So decided that was not my best route. I'm going to do something different. So let's get it.
Textbooks are expensive anyways. So
Textbooks are expensive, dude. Here's a question to get us started on some debate. Why are online classes so expensive? So, for example, I talked to some of the people in the program today, and I was basically told that if I were going to stay in the program, I was going to be charged the same cost on tuition. And when it comes down to it, the online classes come out to be about $2,500 per course.
Okay,
And
so
I would, right.
I'm gonna answer from like a business perspective, and I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense. So one, now the whole landscape of the classes are changing, right? They don't have students physically coming into buildings. They don't have the, obviously the buildings are still going to run with electricity, but they're not going to have, computer output, all of that
Right.
stuff. So one would think their costs are going down from that perspective. I could see a case where we have to ramp up professors on all this tech, and tech costs a lot of money. But
Right.
my opinion, if you're already a pretty established university like Ole Miss is, you probably already have basic infrastructure in place. And I would think in today's age, that's part of your, planning for a situation like this is you have the infrastructure to go online if you want. So to your point, I think that is ridiculous. One, an MBA program, you want it to be in person. And then two, like, I would think their costs are coming down as a university, and universities are normally ran like businesses. So yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why isn't that tuition number coming down at least a little bit, or being subsidized from some, way to account for that technology or something?
So you're telling me that humans are expensive, Blake? No, I think you are both exactly right, dude. And it's just one of those situations where you both are exactly right. I'll say this. One thing that we're finding out during these times is like how adaptive is a business, as a company, as a university to its surroundings, but also like how forthcoming are they to be able to find middle ground? How forthcoming are they to be able to like, mediate and come to a mutual agreement, opposed to just being stuck in their ways, right? You've got like I talked to a lady today on the phone and we got heated. My blood was absolutely boiling because I was talking to this lady and she was like, I was asking her, I was like, so I understand the circumstances. I'm fully aware of everything going on. I just think it's best for me to pull out. And I was like, are you willing to make any changes on tuition costs? And they said, she just said no. There was no like, explanation. It was just straight no. And like, if you're able to be more tactful and, present sides of an argument, then you're more able to get someone on your side, opposed to just throwing something up, putting up a brick wall and shooting down a discussion. So that's the last thing I have to say about that, and we can just move on to whatever. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think COVID's doing that for a lot of systems in our country. I mean, for sure. But education will definitely see a lot of that. I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous, not only in university systems, but like the little kids, all the things that they're going to have to do when they go back to school. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm glad they'll be in school, I guess, but like all the weird things, and they won't be able to socialize or be close to anybody and have to do so many weird things throughout the day. It's crazy. It's going to change a lot in the education system.
Right. So going off of all these points and viewpoints, kind of want to drive it home and really answer that question that those that are listening to us right now are wondering. What is this podcast? Why do they care? Who are we? So I'm going to defer to Garrett to, directly come up and answer that question.
So hold that thought. Blake, is everything cool? They can only hear Blake.
Jesus, Blake.
Okay, timeout. Well, at least they can't only hear the voice. That doesn't matter, right? Okay. So I just want to give a quick shout out to our loyal and faithful day one listeners. We got Reed and Jacob, right? Jacob. Yeah. Shout out Reed and Jacob. You guys are as invested as we are from the get go. Stay loyal listeners, and you'll have some free merch coming to you sooner rather than later. Sponsored by Brian.
Hey,
see that logo?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I think I fixed it. I think I just forgot to add the audio device.
So you want to just go ahead and restart then if they missed your soliloquies in the get go? Should we just go ahead and restart? Because
I think we should just reintroduce Blake and then just kind of go into what we're about to go into.
We can edit it too if we need to.
we can definitely edit it.
We can take some of the good parts out of the first audio file and then combine it with another one if we have to restart.
All right, Reed says you're gay, Garrett. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks, Weed.
You do look pretty happy and joyful, Garrett. I'd say so.
I think we're already 12, almost 13 minutes in. I don't think we should restart it.
No, you can. How easy is it to clip shit?
I can figure it out.
Okay, cool. Do you have Movie Maker or something?
I do on my Mac.
All right. So
there might be something for Windows too that I need to get.
It's gonna be funny going back and listening to this audio file because we're all gonna have these awesome points, and then it's gonna be 5 minutes of laughs, and then it's just gonna be utter silence, and then we're all gonna be yeah, great point, Blake. You killed that. Yeah.
I should have.
All right, now that we have a shitty little 3-minute banter going on that we'll probably cut, Garrett, you want to tee up the the whole point, and then we can break it down into our discussions and some of the items we want to talk to.
100%. Yeah, so this is gonna be a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I think it gives context into why we're here, why us for looking at each other on an iPhone right now, talking about whatever we're talking about. So obviously, it goes without saying that we're living in crazy times. There's no doubt about it. People are rioting in the streets. We've got a global pandemic. We're more divided as a country than we've ever been. Things are just crazy, right? And so, basically, we are here today as 4 22, 23-year-old dudes who are living through all of these things together and have a certain viewpoint on life. And all 4 of us differ. And, we all have different experiences. We all have different things going on. And basically, we're here to provide, natural, sincere conversation to you guys. We're just going to give you, our viewpoints. We're going to tell you about our experiences and what we believe in. And we're going to have lighthearted discussion. We're going to have deep discussions. We're going to kind of hit it all. We're not going to hit everything. So this is Bona Fide Talk. We're going to just give it to you straight. We're going to give it to you straight. Does that kind of hit it, boys? Is that okay?
I think that was perfect.
Sweet.
I'm gonna use a headset right now.
Perfect.
So one of the points we have here, and some of these topics as we dive into them, some of us might know more about some segments like cars per se.
Appreciate it.
Like me and
Thanks
Cameron are kind of
thanks for letting
nuts
us
when it
know
comes to that versus, sports, whereas Garrett is going to be leading that primarily. But the good thing about,
I can talk a bit about soccer.
there we go. Cameron's so well versed in soccer because he's logged like 30 hours of FIFA just this week alone.
that.
30 oh yeah. Well,
He's like top 5 all time.
Kids top 5 all time in Ultimate Team wins. Maybe Ultimate Team hours.
For sure.
Yeah. So
I have like literally about a month of my life on that game. But yeah, back
On
to
what, FIFA 19 in
it's
general?
honestly-
enough
Also not that
FIFA.
bad.
Maybe we'll have a FIFA segment one day, but
Oh, we will, sure.
alrighty.
Fuck.
I mean, I went to Georgia, so I know about college football, kind of, and that's
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
probably
But-
college football is my
So-
main strong point too.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
throwing that out
Atlanta
there.
United.
As we're going through this, some people might have more of a voice than others, and so it'll just be an open, free-flowing discussion. The first one we have on deck, I don't know if
The
anybody wants to
agenda?
go off this. It's just electric cars. It says Tesla stock, which apparently Elon Musk can manipulate just with one tweet. So,
Absolutely.
if anybody wants to.
All right, I want
dive
to
in
hear.
it.
I want to hear Blake. I want to hear Blake tell me why Tesla's better than Porsche on electric vehicles.
I too would love to hear that.
Okay. Because I don't know. I don't have a good reason. No. Well, so
Ooh,
I mean-
there's one good reason.
all
You
right.
don't
So
even-
here's the. I'll come at it from this perspective. Because honestly, I haven't done a whole lot of research into this topic. Just some preliminary stuff that I would say most people have seen. But so if it comes down to it, I would probably buy a Tesla over a Porsche. Look, just in terms of electric vehicles. One, because you could get a Tesla for a lot cheaper than you can get a Porsche Taycan for sure. That one's pretty obvious. But also, obviously, Porsche is a very. Should I be saying Porsche or Porsche? Which one?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
So obviously, Porsche is a much more established company in terms of just an automobile manufacturer. But I think Tesla has a lot more experience in the electric vehicle world. So they've been making electric cars since did their first one come out in 2008? They're like their concept vehicle, that first Roadster.
Yeah,
The Roadster.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
The first
so
Roadster.
I really don't know much about Tesla cars. I'm just going to give you all a few numbers that I kind of read around today that I thought were really interesting. So, as of today, Tesla Incorporated is the most valuable car company in the world. Okay, so they just surpassed Toyota, and they have like a market cap of about $250 billion as of today, right? So Toyota's held that crown for the last like 30 years, some crazy.
Wow.
So
I'm actually surprised by that.
yeah, dude, it's nuts, and it's all attributable to one thing: outrageous stock price increases. Okay, so I'm looking at the numbers right now. If you go back to March 18th, that's about the time that shit kind of hit the fan, right? So you go back to March 18th and you look at the stock price. Can anyone guess what the stock price was in March 18th compared to what it is now? Any guesses out there? Let me hear some.
No clue.
30%.
Okay, so March 18th, if you had $360, you could buy Tesla stock. Okay.
Yeah.
Stock price right now at close today was $1,371.
Oh my
And
god.
that's in what, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
So
yeah,
you're
jeez.
talking about. I mean, it's got to be one of the fastest growing like tech stocks in years.
Right.
Just like that constant growth. Just today, it hit a 14% jump from open to close.
What do you guys think is causing
So-
it? Because I feel like not a whole lot has changed since March in terms of what Tesla's come out with.
Well,
Right,
the
and
reason
SpaceX.
being why it can hike so much is from its inception. of being like a public company, Tesla is evaluated as a tech company. It's not
100%.
evaluated as an automobile
100%.
manufacturer. It would have been bust years ago. And within tech, you know, I mean, if you've been following Amazon, how crazy the rise has been, it's almost doubled. So I think that's primarily a driver behind that. And then number
100%.
two is kind of like the cult following. You know, it's kind of like
Yeah, he's
Apple.
got a yeah. There's a definitely it is very like Apple. That's a good analogy in terms of its fan base,
100%.
cult
So
following, if you will.
another interesting number too that's kind of driving the numbers right now for Tesla specifically. So their sales numbers and deliverables compared to a year ago right now only dropped by 4%. So you're thinking like, okay, well, if a company dropped their profit from a year ago by 4%, you'd think that, you know, that'd actually be bad for stocks, bad for, you know, market viewpoint, whatever. So if you compare that to like the top 4 car manufacturers, Toyota, Chevy, Ford, etc., and you aggregate their sales drops from a year ago, you're talking about a 30% sales drop from 1 year ago from the
Wow.
top car manufacturers. So you've
Wow.
got Tesla, who through the thick and thin has actually kind of been pretty steady with their sales compared to every other car manufacturer out there. You basically got, you know, a ton of people out there that are banking on the upside with Tesla just continuing to grow and rise. And that's all attributable, I think, to what Brian said, being a tech stock, because the upside is just so much higher with technology, because technology is so it grows exponentially. It doesn't grow linearly, right? So, you know, the upside there is just absurd. And I think that's kind of what people are banking on. It's kind of interesting too, because like, would you pay $1,400 to hitch your pony to Elon Musk? I don't know if I would. I just don't know if I trust the man that much.
I don't know. I don't know if I would invest $1,400 in Tesla stock right now, anyways. But I mean,
Right.
I feel like everyone's been kind of weary about him ever since the start, and I don't know. Things have only been looking up for Tesla really since their inception.
Right.
You know, there's obviously a lot of questions that someone like me that has essentially no business background, I definitely don't have, you know, the sort of resources to answer that. But just based off what I've seen and you know, kind of what the company has done over the past 10 years, 10, 12 years, it I don't see why there's a reason to be disappointed.
100%. Cameron, just from like a straight, like, you know, you and Brian, I guess you probably nailed this. Just understanding cars. Like, what do y'all know about Teslas? Like, good things, bad things, like solely as a vehicle on the road in 2020. What do y'all know anything about them? Like, pros, cons?
Yeah, so I've actually got a coworker that's got the Model 3.
Okay.
So like I've sat in one. Like I've experienced the autonomous driving, and it's cool. Literally, like what I would say it is or feels like is an iPhone, but a car.
I've heard that
So,
Right.
a lot.
yeah, you get in it.
How
like,
was the?
good?
Because I've only heard this. I haven't really been in any Teslas or anything, but I've heard about like the fit and finish isn't the best. I know it's like all looks amazing, luxury, and really nice and stuff. Well, I mean, what did you think? Everything looks just like you would expect it, and then
Yeah.
fit together, panel gaps and everything like that.
So panel gaps, I can't speak as much to that because I know they have had a history of quality control issues with, you know, their plants and infrastructure, and that kind of goes back to how new of a company they are. If you compare them to other automobile manufacturers like Ford, that dates back to, I don't know, Henry Ford age, like what, early 1900s.
Yeah.
So from that, you know, quality assurance standpoint, I don't really notice anything to the naked eye, but I've heard a bunch of different things, like, you know, the inside of doors falling off or stuff like that, which I don't doubt, given the fact that, you know, their first car was, 12 years ago in 08.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, yeah, I don't have any direct, you know, relationship with that because I don't own a Tesla. But from, you know, honestly being a hater early on, I wasn't huge on Tesla. But you can't deny, like, when you're in one, how cool it is to see this car, you know, autonomously kind of drive for you. And like, you can put the blinker down one way, it's going to detect if a car is coming. and then it will
Right.
safely merge over. The inside is very like clean. I know earlier models, I think like 13 was the first Model S here. Those look a little rough.
The
But
first
this new
models,
model,
the first years, you're saying?
yeah, the first years.
Huh.
But I mean, the first year of any car looks terrible.
For
So,
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm looking at a picture of the interior right now. Like literally, dude, that iPad looking like
it's
dashboard is
clean.
insane.
Yeah.
Dude, and like you look at everything else, like the big thing in like a lot of new vehicles right now. I'm more familiar with trucks. Like whenever you get into like a 2020 Dodge or Ford or whatever, like there is just so much shit. Like so many different like knobs, whistles, buttons, lights, etc. I'm looking at a picture of an interior. There is not a damn thing other than just the
Simple.
like the iPad looking like dashboard.
And then this is the
or
Model
whatever.
3, right? That's
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
super simplistic
Yeah.
one. What do y'all think of
Yep.
that? I think it's cool that it's so simplistic, but honestly, when I first saw the Model 3 come out, I was like, all right, that might be a little too simple.
Simplistic, right?
Like I do like where they're going with it, but I don't know. Do you think it's too much?
I think on like any car, and Cameron, you can kind of attest to this. Kind of like the Taycan that we saw, was it yesterday at the
Yeah.
car show?
Oh, you guys saw?
Like it really,
Okay.
yeah, it just depends on the spec and like what you order.
Right.
Any car can, have the most premium look and appeal and feel, or you could just have, the base model, and it's going to be, you get what you pay for, kind of. So.
Right.
I think one thing Tesla's definitely got going for them is the underdog factor.
Right.
I think that's a huge part of the reason why they've been so successful lately is, I mean, one, you've got Elon Musk, who's such a character, but they've really been under the thumb, or not under the thumb, but overshadowed by all these massive car
Right.
manufacturers that have been around for since the early days, since the 50s probably.
Also,
And
I think
before.
our generation is super interested and concerned with getting in on like the ground floor of like something that's going to be bigger. You hear
Right.
all these stories about tech companies like in the 80s and 90s, like Apple and this and that, and people missing out because they didn't invest, or they sold their stock when they thought it wouldn't be anything. And now people are so concerned with that, so
Right.
concerned with investments, and trying to get in on those early tech companies and stay with them and all that.
Speaking of things that are going to be really successful and people wanting to get in on the groundbreaking on the beginning, all of our listeners out there, why don't you go ahead and get in on this groundbreaking, earth-shattering podcast, and go ahead and leave us a 5.
Yeah, boys.
Go ahead and
like.
subscribe and leave us a fat comment below.
You can get it on the ground floor of the startup for the low price of $99.99 a year.
Right.
Just one easy payment to your mom 69 at Venmo.com.
Yeah, I'll leave my bank account information below. Please donate at your will. So real quick, Blake, and this is kind of hit me. And I want to ask you this question. So you mentioned that you don't have a strong acumen in business, but you do have a strong acumen. Right, but you and Brian do have an acumen in one thing that y'all have recently experienced, and that's buying a house.
Yeah.
So first, Blake, I just want to congratulate you for literally within the last week buying a house. Yeah, we got claps
Good job,
all around
Blake.
right now.
Thanks, man.
Big boy
Way to
move.
go.
We're so proud of you.
Feels
Can't wait to
weird.
come over there and absolutely trash it.
Dude, please.
Right, but why don't you go ahead and tell us? Right, heck yeah, dude. Why don't you go ahead and tell us just a little bit about that process and like why you decided to buy a house during a global pandemic and what the benefits were and what the hiccups were, etc.
So yeah, well, I kind of just randomly started thinking about buying a house, honestly, because I have a new neighbor with a loud ass truck that just wakes me up every morning. And so I'm just like, well, fuck, man. And my plan when I moved up to Charleston was to only live in an apartment for a couple of months, and then eventually move into a house. And so I'm right at the 6-month mark now, with living in my apartment. And a bunch of my coworkers, some people that I've made friends with had started to move into a house. So I just figured it was a good time. And speaking of the pandemic going on, I felt like it was especially a good time with how low rates are. I ended up getting like an extremely low rate, especially for I would consider for some of my age, only 23 years old. But if you're able to right now, I think right now is the time to buy a house if you've been thinking about it. Yeah. So I mean, the fact that I don't want to say that I'm benefiting from the pandemic going on in the world, but it definitely helped me out with in the long run with what I'm going to be paying for this house. And just but
But Blake,
the main kicker was
are
just having my own place. Being able to grow up and get a dog and a cat.
100%.
What were you gonna say?
yeah, dog. I was gonna say, but Blake, are you not worried about the market crashing and the value of your home just dropping?
No,
Well,
because
I
I'll
can
just
hit
hold
on
on to it.
that because I bought
Go
mine
ahead,
right
Brian.
before everything happened. So yeah, one would say I probably overpaid, but yeah, for me, so I closed on my house February 24th. With my background, though, it's something I'd planned on. As soon as I graduated, I'd save enough money. I wanted to move in a house. I didn't want to pay rent. I wanted to start investing in real estate from the get-go. So I closed on my house the end of February, right when I think I can still remember like the day. I think it was like March 13th or something that we are pretty much given the order, hey, don't come into the office, stay at home. I had recently just moved in, so I spent my quarantine renovating the backyard, doing fun stuff like that. But getting back to the numbers and timing, how I closed on it right before everything kind of hit the fan. Luckily, I still got in on the low interest rates, but in hindsight, if I would have bought right now, I probably could have saved like 10, 20 grand. But then also hitting on what you said, Cameron, investing for the long term. Like the plan wasn't to sell this house in a year, so the market valuation doesn't really matter to me because I want to hold it for the rest of my life if I can. If it makes sense to sell one day, I'll sell. But it's been interesting, graduating, starting a job, moving into a house, doing all those big, ticket items, but just getting them done.
Crossing off all the milestones off the checklist.
Yeah. I'm just gonna,
Yeah, I think as long as you're in the position to do so, if you have a stable job, it's a good time to buy, and just that as say the market crashes, but over time it's only going to go up. It might be longer than what you want, but things do eventually rebound. So if you're able to, and I'm not saying if you don't have a job, go out and fucking buy a house right now. But,
Right, yeah. I mean, if the market cycles roughly every 10 years and you had a 30-year loan, it's going to cycle 3 times and you can sell whenever,
Yeah.
the high points or
Right.
whatever. So
it's something
So,
I've
I get
learned,
that.
like through all, like reading up on, different investing topics, real estate. It's like, I just want to make the decision and do it. Some people are going to be like, oh, I want to time the market. I don't think it's right yet. And it's like, well, those are the people in 10 years that are going to go by and they didn't even make the decision and they're still trying to time the market. So
right, yeah.
really with anything, I think just make the decision and do it, and that's kind of my philosophy.
100%. The cool
And
thing about you,
there really is always a play in any kind of market anyway.
Yeah.
And y'all's play is long term anyway. So
the cool thing about y'all's
Yeah.
situation is y'all quit spectating. You got out of the bleachers and you hopped onto the field, man. That's awesome.
Hell yeah,
You can't undermine that, dude. You can't undermine that. Like you said, Brian, you can always try and wait for the right time or the perfect moment, but perfect doesn't always exist. There's gonna be learning experiences with everything, and you only learn through acting and failing. So
got to take
that's
a risk.
perfect. Right. I mean, Blake's
Big-
been failing at everything he's ever done his entire life, every single
Basically,
day.
dude.
Like
I
he
don't
is
know
an
how,
Especially
experienced
Call of
vet.
Duty.
Dude, these fucking noobs keep camping. They keep sniping me across the map.
Kid's career
No, that's
KD is
you.
like 0.45. Like he just can't ever figure it out. So real quick question. You guys kind of touched on this. I want y'all to kind of expand on this a little bit more. So, I'm working full time theoretically, right? And I'm not. I'm leeching off of the positive contributing members of society right now. But just kidding. So yeah. So like, if you're working and you have an income, why buy a house and take that risk opposed to just paying rent? Like, why would you?
Right.
Why choose one or the other? What are the pros and cons of each? If y'all
Blake,
can touch on that.
go ahead, give your reason. I'll break it down from like more of a number / boring perspective.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about my own experience because obviously right now I am renting an apartment, but the main reason was I just wanted something of my own. I wanted, my own backyard, my own garage, my own space essentially to kind of do what I want with. I've got some projects in mind that I'd like to start working on that, I can't open up a wood shop in the middle of my living room in the apartment. I don't think that would go over too well with the landlords. So I'm lucky enough to have a stable job that allows me to to buy a house right now, and just start working towards the future of having my own space. Ultimately getting a dog, a cat, getting some pets. Probably way further down the line, but still on the line, getting a family and just starting off like that. And also, it's a big maturity step. I feel like a lot of people in college rent, obviously, because well, one, you're only in college for 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, but uh, it's a big step into adulthood, buying your own house. Um,
100%.
and also, if you look for in the right places, buying a house and paying rent in an apartment is going to be about the same cost wise. Whereas in one case you're paying somebody else's rent, and in another case, you're paying your own rent. And
Right.
if you're smart about it, and if it's your goal, like I know, it's Brian, this is your goal, and you've kind of inspired me to have the same goal. Um, you know, rent out some of those other bedrooms in a certain amount of time, and actually start making some passive income off that. Um,
Right.
yeah,
So getting into that, and yeah, I agree with all Blake's points. From a qualitative perspective, there's definitely a sense of maturity, and then also pride that comes
for
with
sure.
working in your backyard or something like that. But as I mentioned, getting more into the numbers, my background's like finance and real estate, so I'm always analyzing stuff. So purely hypothetical, but I'll just kind of break it down from a number perspective to illustrate the point. So let's say my mortgage is $1,650 a month. So $1,650 I'm paying towards the mortgage. You break it down. Um, the mortgage has three aspects to it. At least mine does. One is going to be interest. So that's the bank. They're making money. They gave you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, they deserve to get paid. So that's one aspect of it. And then the second is principal. So unlike renting, when you pay a mortgage, part of that mortgage payment goes to you and building equity in that property. So let's say right now that's about 450. So that's $450. That's coming back to me. I'm holding on to that long term. That's not getting lost like it would in rent. So, and then the rest of it, which let's say it's $400 for escrow. So the bank, um, they also are going to be responsible, since they hold the title to the property. They're going to be paying the property taxes and they're paying the insurance premiums. So just to kind of bring it all back, and why I think it's personally a great decision for me to buy a house right now, even though I'm in an intro job, so I'm gonna strap for a couple months, but long term it's a good decision, because I take 1650. I write off or subtract that $450, right? Because that's going to me. That's not a loss. So now we have $1,200. I have 2 bedrooms I can rent out. So I actually, funny enough, Blake's brother should be moving in here and
It's
anytime.
crazy.
And it's kind of funny how it all goes full circle. That's um, you know, a good chunk of that remaining 1,200. And then I have the master bedroom that should come at even more of a premium. So, you know, at some point I'm going to be paying, maybe like $400 or $500 a month to own my own house. That's less than you're going to pay in rent,
For by a
and pretty
lot.
much any market that I've heard of. And then I get to depreciate this house from taxes. So that's a write off. And then I also get to write off the interest for that mortgage. So really, I'm netting zero on paper with this house from an income perspective, but that's going to bring down my personal taxable gain or taxable income. So all
Seems
that
like
to say, it's a good decision.
seems like a good
Boom.
decision, except for when Connor moves into the house and sets it on fire. That seems like a big liability. How are you going to overcome that?
Yeah. I just installed a fire pit, so that might have to go.
That was the
You need-
insurance he was talking about.
Yeah,
Oh, dude, it's all part of the plan.
I'm covered up to $300K.
you need to install like a styrofoam like lining in his bedroom to make sure that, and like no furniture whatsoever. Just give him like a pillow and a cot, and
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. And you should
Get
be
him a
pretty.
helmet too. Wrap himself.
So the only lesson I learned there was, number one, never let a Manzer move into your house. It's just too dangerous. It's just too
I
dangerous.
can back that up.
No, you guys. I think you guys kind of nailed two really cool details that I think are really important. First off, Blake, you nailed it. Autonomy in your own living space, having full sovereignty over like putting something in your backyard, owning a dog. You know, one thing that sucks about renting is you got to pay a pet deposit. You got to
Right.
make sure that the place can have pets. You don't have to do that with owning your own house, etc. Having that autonomy is so prideful, like you mentioned,
For
Brian.
sure.
And then, you know, obviously, you know, Brian knows a thing or two about real estate. He might specialize in it. You might even say, but he nailed the numbers. You know, the taxable aspects of it all. Like, there's a lot of benefits, and I think, you know, like you said, Blake, talking about like, you know, whenever you get out of college, you're just kind of used to that renting atmosphere. Like you're just used to
it's
that. It's just
easy.
kind of ingrained in you when you're in college, and so you just kind of let it just continue on.
And it's a good first step too. Once you get into your real job, you know, you want to get. A lot of times you're going to move to some new place that you've never been before. So you want to. It makes sense to rent and get a lay of the land.
Right. But I will say this though, and I think and this is just kind of gut. I don't have any numbers to back this up, but I really do think that over time, people are more and more inclined and likely to rent just due to like our innate like character as our generation. Like I feel like you know, people around us are very just like prioritize flexibility, prioritize, you know, just like coming in and out, you know, find a new place this year. Maybe I'm going to move to this new city next year, and
Right.
and yada yada. And like also kind of fear
Definitely.
home owning because of what we experienced in our youth with the 2008 housing crisis. You know, that was
I think
very
that's
at home to a
certainly
lot
part
of
of it.
us with our parents and you know, watching the news and stuff. Like we kind of grew up on that. So I do think that going forward, home buying, the numbers are probably going to decrease over the coming decades. So those
That
who
makes
are
sense.
more inclined to take the risk to own a home and rent it out to others who value the flexibility and value the lack of risk there are probably going to be pretty financially inclined to do so long term. So yeah, to all of our many listeners out there, you know, this is going to be something that I think we're going to talk about a lot throughout the course of this podcast. We're going to really talk about real estate and the benefits of it. I think all four of us here have that, if not a background, at least some kind of inclination towards the positive benefits of it long term and short term. So
Right.
we don't have to, you know, mull too much over it right now, but just kind of a foreshadowing of many more conversations to come.
Yeah.
But Brian and Blake, thank you all for your contributions.
For sure.
And Cameron also has an extensive background in real estate. Cameron, you want to talk a little bit about that?
True. Yeah. I'll go ahead and qualify myself a little bit in this. I was in investment real estate for over a year. I don't know if it was quite 2 years, but straight out of college, I left and started doing single family, like renovation and also buy and hold opportunities. We found those and provided those for investors. So we weren't the investors. I was just somewhat of an agent, even though I didn't work as an agency with my investors. But I worked with investors to provide them these kind of properties, these kind of opportunities that obviously Brian and Blake just bought. They bought in slightly different circumstances, mostly working with cash buyers myself. But I mean, they're real estate investors now. Homeowners are investors.
Cameron, do you think you'd ever get back into that space of real estate? You know, since you did have that experience.
One more time, Blake. Cut out there.
That cut out. Do you think you'd ever get back into the real estate world? You know, do you have any interest in pursuing that?
Oh yeah,
anymore?
for sure. I do in a couple different avenues, but probably not the traditional role. I don't think is for me, so I won't get back into it as far as like being an agent or anything. I would have some interest in being a broker, so you kind of have to be an agent for 3 years. But yeah, of course, I want to do the investing myself with my own money and capital, but I gotta come up with the
You gotta build that
capital
up.
first.
Right.
So, there's a couple different avenues I thought about getting back into, but um, I kind of want to go a different direction and then maybe just come back around to it when I have the capital.
Gotcha.
Right. That's what a lot
100%.
of people do. That's
Yeah.
just kind of really a common denominator between anybody who builds significant wealth. Anybody, with million plus net worth has some form of real estate in their portfolio. So,
Yeah.
to that point,
Life, liberty, and property.
Exactly. They're not making
Right.
any more of it.
Right on. So,
Right.
so Cameron, since you're kind of going right now, I wanted to, and you kind of mentioned this earlier. I wanted to ask you. So, you mentioned having a little quarantine project that you've been taking on over the last few months. Why don't you touch on that a little bit?
Oh yeah, I've just been getting into woodworking. I decided to build a couple things for myself. I built a couple things for my mom. Now she's asking for a couple more things, and I'm just kind of digging it.
What
Yeah,
kind of
good.
stuff you've been building for?
Cut, huh?
Like, what have you been building for?
I built her a little bookshelf, a little stand for our bathroom, just like our front bathroom. She wanted stuff like a little stand, little table to put stuff on. So built her just little small things with cheap wood, but now I'm working on a table for her laundry room so she can like do her folding and stuff on it. So the base is going to be kind of simple, have a little bit of design to it, but the top is kind of what I'm excited about, the actual top portion. I'm going to get some MDF, so just like some particle board essentially, and cover it with epoxy resin.
Ooh.
Y'all heard of that or seen
Yeah,
that?
The clear stuff, right? And you can put a
Yeah.
design in it.
So,
Yeah.
right. Different people use that for different stuff. There's these companies based around just like redoing people's countertops for them. There's people you see like on Instagram that'll do those river tables and they'll
Oh,
pour
yeah.
that stuff in the middle of the wood and let it dry and stuff.
Going
And
around
that'll
the
be
river.
cool to get into eventually. But how I'm gonna do this table for my mom is I'm gonna just paint it white, seal it, and then cover it with this epoxy and do her favorite color is purple, so I'm going to mix in that purple color and just cover it, and it'll be the a nice tabletop surface that she can the clothes will glide on and stuff, just easy for folding.
nice.
That's really cool. So, Cameron, I got two questions for you. First off, how many
Yeah.
hours have you spent on YouTube prepping, doing all this woodwork?
So much. I mean, I don't know anybody that woodworks or like does woodwork
Right.
carpentry or anything. I don't have anybody teaching me. It's all YouTube. It's all
Right.
Have
Right.
you
all
ever
YouTube.
have you looked up have you ever heard of Andy Rawls? I think that's a YouTube channel.
Andy
Channel called
Rawls.
Andy
I mean,
Rawls.
maybe I've seen him. I've watched so many different ones.
I've seen a couple.
I mean, I've spent hours and hours just looking at videos telling you what the right tools to get are. So
Yeah.
tools alone, hours of video, and then how to put stuff together, the best way to, the best kinds of joinery and stuff like that. There's different craftsmanship levels. There's like just a pocket hole, and then there's
Right.
like you can do different kinds of joinery, mortise and tenon and stuff for like nice pieces. Dovetail you've maybe heard about. It's like super hard to do. You need like handheld tools, not power tools and stuff like that.
100%, dude. That's
So yeah,
one thing. That's one thing. I want to hear y'all's stances on this. That's one thing I think about a lot. Is like, when we, reach that point where we're the head of our household, where we're leading our family and stuff. How defeating is that going to be when like you have a task that you can't do, and you're just like you're not handy enough, or you just don't have the skills or like the experience doing it, and you're just like, shit, I can't do that. Like that's got to be such a defeating feeling. But thank God for YouTube.
what do you mean,
I mean,
Garrett? I can't think of a thing that would possibly be.
so that's what I'm getting at here is like, thank God for YouTube, because if there's
Yeah,
one
dude.
thing that we as guys will do is we'll lie if we're asked if we know how to do something. We'll say, oh yeah, like yeah, we
Easy.
can do that.
We don't
But
need
all we're gonna
instructions.
do is
Figure
just
it
go
out.
and just dive in. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Just dive in on YouTube and just like kind of figure it out. Like working on a car. I don't know hardly shit about working on a car, but
You
damn
can
it, I'm
figure
good
it
at
out on
following.
YouTube.
I'm
No,
good at
I'm
following
gonna pay
YouTube directions.
somebody.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not gonna mess that up. You know what?
Right.
Oh,
So you
come
get
on,
something
Brian.
cheap. You get a beater to screw up on.
Yeah. Well,
Well, it depends on how
sink a
nice the
boat and
car
blow
is.
up the engine. Tell me if you won't pay somebody to do an oil change.
Oh, I think this is something we should bring up to our current listeners and future listeners. So Brian, you're the the only person I know who has sunk a boat to the bottom of a body of water, and not only sunk a boat,
Oh, Brian.
Oh.
but had the engine blow up on your second boat.
All right.
Cue the
engine, that's
Titanic
my
music.
fault. All right.
I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just
Yeah.
I
No.
don't know.
So, first one,
I'm just
which
saying
I
it's funny.
will rebuild one day and restore because it's a badass boat. It's like an 80-something ski boat.
It is pretty cool.
Ski Centurion, whatever. So it was a cool boat, but it's a ski boat, so it already sits low. I mean, Blake, you probably remember this day as much as I do too,
Yeah.
because you saw
Best
the
day
whole
of my
thing
life.
capsize. But small boat, overloaded. What I think it was like maybe 5-person max. We had 8 people on it, 2 four-wheelers. We're in Lake Lanier, where all these people think they need a yacht for some reason on this lake in the middle of Georgia. So there's yachts going by, huge wakes. My dad at the time was throwing it in reverse, and people that knew him, he was an aggressive driver. There's no hiding that. So he might have revved that thing real quick in reverse, and it just so happened at the same time one of these big old lake mega yachts was coming by. So literally just picture a wake going over the back of our boat and eating it and it capsizing and sinking.
Oh,
Well, didn't y'all figure out also that whoever was doing repair on the boat, like a couple weeks prior, had not put some on back correctly, like the exhaust manifold wasn't put on properly?
So it was either exhaust manifold, but I think I remember it as the bilge pump, which is a pretty vital part in a boat.
True, yeah.
If you know anything about boats. Bilge pumps essentially pump the water out of the boat that inevitably gets in. So that wasn't working. It's just a recipe for disaster. That one, I wasn't driving the boat, so I don't take blame. Did I see the warning signs? Maybe. Did I say anything? No. Did the boat sink? Yes.
Is it an amazing story? Hell yes.
Yeah.
So my question is to Blake, as you're sitting there watching Titanic unfold in the middle of your eyes on Lake Lanier, what did you do to help here? Like, why were you just watching? Why weren't you like helping your comrades get out of the water and not sink to the bottom of it?
I would say that the main thing I did to help was frantically look for my phone to try to record this incident and post it to my Snapchat story.
2020.
Just like
it was funny. So that's Brian's perspective. So from my perspective, me and another family, we call them the Bowmans. My family and their family.
We
Call them the Bowmans.
The
They
Bowmans.
are the Bowmans.
Well, I mean,
They are the Bowmans.
So our families rented a boat, and we met up with Brian's family in the middle of the lake, and we're just kind of discussing our plans for the day. I think it's like Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend or something like that. We're talking about like where we're gonna go to try and water ski and whatnot, and Miss Suzanne, Brian's mom, is like trying to dump water out of the boat during this. And so we're she's like, all right, just give us a second. We've got a little bit of water in our boat. We'll be ready in a second. So I get distracted by something, and I turn my attention back, and the boat is literally like, if you've seen the movie Titanic, it's like vertical in the air. There's coolers and shit everywhere. Brian's little brother Mason is like paddling, like swimming as fast as he can towards our boat. There's life jackets and shit everywhere. Brian's dad is just sitting in the boat trying to take control of the situation. And I mean, it was really, yeah, dude. I mean, Brian can back me up. He didn't leave the boat until like we were telling him, we're like, Joel, get out of the boat, it's sinking. Yep. And he's like, I'm gonna fix this. I'll upright it.
Captain goes down with the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't really do anything in that moment other than try to figure out.
Laugh and get footage. That's all. That's
laugh and get footage.
Your true responsibility is to laugh and get footage.
As my dad said in the moment, that boat is El Fucko.
El Fucko.
maybe it was just better off at the bottom of the lake.
And then, the other one I take full responsibility. I blew up the engine. I didn't properly winterize it.
God dang, that sucked.
Jeez.
So,
It happens, dude.
I won't ever buy a boat. I'll stick to cars.
Yeah.
Well, the
Get
best
some jet
boat,
skis or something.
the,
A little
the
fun.
best boat is the boat that your friend owns.
Exactly. So
Those are the best.
Ryan.
So, my dad is over the last 3 years. We've actually owned a boat. My dad bought a used one from one of his buddies, and this might be an isolated case. So, my dad bought this boat from his buddy. It needed some work, so he put a lot of work into it, put some money into it, and we owned it for 3 years. And it was an awesome boat. It was a Sea Ray, 28-footer, great boat. Had a lot of good experiences with it, etc. So he sold it this year at the beginning of the summer, right before Memorial Day. And he got back every penny that he put into the boat in his sale price.
Wow.
So not only his previous like buying price, but also all like the work that he put into it over the 3 years that he owned it, all
Nice.
baked into the price that he got at the beginning of the summer. So I feel like that never happens. I feel like when you
So the beginning of the summer, like during COVID, during the pandemic.
Yeah, 100%, dude, 100%.
Okay.
And it might have ended up being a good time to sell a boat, because
It's all those people
know
trying
that they're
to
not going to
grab a boat and just go in the middle of the ocean, escape society.
escape. Exactly.
Yeah, it might
So-
have been a hard time to just go get a new one.
Right, 100%, dude. So I feel like that never happens because what is the acronym that goes with BOAT? Break out another 1,000.
Yep.
I feel like it's just pretty synonymous that you're gonna lose your ass for
Right.
the boat, or you're gonna lose it at the bottom of the lake, one or the other.
Yep.
You are. I'll let y'all argue which one's better. I won't. But anyway, so any other pandemic related hobbies that you guys have been picking up? I know us collectively, the four of us, have picked up a lot of Call of Duty hours over
sure.
the last few months.
And zero
bro.
dubs.
Zero dubs.
Zero Warzone dubs. I mean,
But
I'll
damn
say
it, a
that
lot of
Come
effort.
on.
loud and proud.
Don't do that to us.
I'll say
We've
that
gotten
loud
a
and proud.
couple.
No, collectively, we have not.
A 4-man, we have not.
I don't
but
know.
I've gotten a trio.
I've never gotten a
keep
dub with
showing
you,
up
Garrett,
playing,
but I've gotten one with Brian and Cameron here.
Right.
So
right.
you
Well,
might be the common denominator.
all right, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna let y'all do that. I'm not gonna let y'all do that to me. That's unfair and unjust.
Are you offended?
I am. It's been a little while since I got a dub, but I have, and I'm not gonna tell you that I wasn't carried. Playing with a couple guys that were 10 times better than me, but hey, I contributed. I had a couple kills and a couple revives. I know
There we
my
go.
role. We did get a plunder dub one time. That was
We've gotten a couple. I think what have we gotten, like 3?
yeah,
Three
dude.
plunder
Plunder's
dubs?
I don't think I've ever played Plunder.
Plunder's fun.
It's okay.
It's pretty
It's
fun.
pretty
You know, it gets old pretty quick, but it gets pretty intense there.
It's a great warm up for a Warzone game. It's very
Yeah,
fast
that's
paced.
true.
Basically like you get revived and you're like trying to kill squads at all costs. Like the more squads you kill, the more likely you are to win. It's a money gathering game. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, this isn't a Call of Duty podcast. But any other hobbies out there, boys, that like y'all would like to mention? Like anything you picked up during coronavirus that you'd like to kind of talk about?
Go back into reading a bit, but that's nothing to really drive home or talk about.
Well, I think that's important. Yeah.
Reading,
it's
a
important.
lot of self-improvement. I feel like this has been a good time for self-improvement amongst a
Right.
lot of people.
Yeah.
Reading's one of them.
Yeah, I've been
I've been
working out
exercising
at
a
home?
lot more. Yeah, I've been working out a lot more than I used to, especially back in
nice.
the old college days.
So I'm one of those people. I've been back in the office for like 2 months. I went back as soon as I could because I was living at home, or not living at home, living in my house by myself. So the second I could get out of the house, I ran. And I'm one of those people that have been going to the gym to, going out in public. I don't know. I don't really live with anybody. Nobody I know is at risk, and at the same time, I know it's a little irresponsible because I could be a transmitter, but that's just kind of how I've handled it.
Well, that's how we build herd immunity.
Yeah.
Right.
Spread it around.
I don't think. Listen, and we don't have to really get into this. All I'll say is there's really no one right way to handle this. Like that's all I'll say, man. Like Brian, you're not in the wrong for handling your business any differently than someone else might.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that, and I think there's a lot of benefits too to being back in the office, and obviously, like, the solitude aspect of it all sucks. That's without
For
a question.
sure.
That's universal. Solitude is no bueno. We as people are we're really realizing over the last few months how dependent we are on one another, opposed to the
Oh, yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how much we need friendship, how much we need family, how much we need just interaction with other people. So that's been, silver linings. They're there.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of dig a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I
6
think a lot of
weeks.
the some of the I'm trying to think of a good way to put it, but some of the shit that the country's been going through over the past month or two, it all honestly kind of probably starts with being cooped up in coronavirus. I mean, everyone knows what I'm talking about, so I don't need to elaborate too much. But right now we're more divided than we probably have been in a while, and I think part of that is because with coronavirus, everyone being locked up and sitting behind a keyboard, you can't gather around events, such as concerts or sporting events or large gatherings where people can come together and kind of, and sporting events too, kind of if we want to lead into talking about college football. We're not able to gather around and focus on some sort of common thing that brings us together.
100%. No, that's well said. That's well said. I really do think, and I believe this innately, that, like, people are way more similar than we like to believe. And one way to truly find out how much you and another person have in common is to get in front of their face and talk to them one-to-one, or get
Right.
and meet them in a sporting event, or see them walking down the street wearing a Braves hat. You're a Braves fan. Boom, you're connected. Like,
Yeah.
we agree on so much more than we disagree, and I think that it's compounded by, we agree less when we're behind a keyboard, like you said, Blake. So I think that's a really
Yeah.
good point. But yeah, speaking of large gatherings and connections and sporting events, yeah, we can talk a little bit about sports. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was some breaking news today in the world of football. So the world favorite, the man himself, Patrick Mahomes, got a new contract extension today. So
Yeah.
his rookie scale contract, he's been one of the best value in all of sports, as a MVP winner, as a Super Bowl winner, and an absolute just numbers freak over the last couple of years. He got a contract extension today. Anybody want to take a stab at what the total number is over 10 years?
10 years.
10 years.
10
Wow,
years.
that's a long one.
All right, I'm gonna take a
Let me
stab
get
and
Total number.
Yeah, you
all right,
get-
I'm
give
gonna go
it a
with
go.
66 million.
66
nope.
million total.
I'm gonna go with 666 million.
Okay.
Jeez.
Wow. devil worship.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
At least at
Brian?
66.
Well, I Googled it, so I'm not
God
gonna.
Okay.
dang it, Brian!
All
You
right,
cheated.
so I was trying to go for the prices right, but Brian cheated. So I guess Cameron's the winner. Well, actually, no, Cameron went over, so he doesn't win. Blake, you're the winner at 66.
Oh,
So
What is it?
Patrick Mahomes' total value has been reported at $503 million over 10 years. So obviously, if you do the math, that comes out to be about $50 million a year, right?
damn.
So a little bit of context here, and obviously I mentioned some of the accolades.
Wait, but value? Is that what his contract is?
No. So I'll talk a little bit about
Break
this.
it down.
I don't want to go
Yeah.
too deep into the weeds
I
here.
don't
So
know anything about
basically,
it.
so when you come into the NFL and all sports, when you get drafted, you have like a scaled contract, right? So you don't get to really negotiate your prices. I think we just lost Blake there.
Maybe just his
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, I think my camera.
All right. So anyway,
fucked up for a minute.
you're good. So you're limited on your earnings when you come into the NFL. Okay, so as the 10th draft pick, his total value of his contract over four years is about $25 to $30 million, which is good in the context. But when you think about the best quarterbacks in the NFL making somewhere between 25 and 35 million a year, when you have the best quarterback and the best player in the NFL making less than 5 million a year, that's a huge value, right? So Patrick Mahomes, after winning Super Bowl this year, was obviously at the top of the world and had a ton of leverage as the best player in the NFL. So they worked out an extension. But previously, some of the best players have been getting about 4 to 5 year deals. So it's pretty unprecedented for Mahomes to get a 10-year deal. And it's extremely just insane that he
Yeah,
got
10
$500
years is a
million.
lot. How old is he?
So
He's like
man,
mid-20s, right?
he's got to be like 24. Brian, you can probably
24,
check that
really?
if you got him
Yeah.
Googled. He's really young. He's only been in the league for 3 years,
Yeah.
24.
which is 24.
24.
It's crazy. It's
Damn.
crazy. He's the best player in the league at 24 years old.
That is crazy.
But he's unprecedented. He really is, and he's deserving. So a little bit more context for the situation. So the largest contract in the NFL before this deal went through was Matt Ryan. Total money over the life of the contract was Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's deal was a 5-year, $150 million deal.
Wow.
That was the largest deal in NFL history before Mahomes' deal.
Dude, that just
right?
blew it out of the water.
How insane is that?
Hello?
I mean, even if you extrapolated that to just 5 years for Mahomes, or 10 years for Matt Ryan, I mean that's about a $300 million deal, and then
Yeah.
he's got Mahomes coming in at $500 million. So it just tells you, it speaks volumes to the player he is and the person he is. Obviously, these teams they're companies, so they're taking an investment in the person as much as the player. So
that is a long-term investment. 10 years for a football player.
It is 100%.
So-
So, dude, this is monumental. It's the biggest contract not only in NFL history but in sports history, ahead of Mike
Wow.
Trout, who just got a $430 million deal over 10 years. And those are the only two players in all of sports with contracts over $400 million. So
In a time like this.
in a time like this, you're exactly
Yeah, that's a
right.
good point. I
So,
didn't even think of that.
yeah, so that's pretty wild. That was a big news nugget today. Outside of that, in the world that we truly live in and care the most about, college football, there's football had kind of been the lucky sport, if you want to say lucky, out of all of the major sports, because they had time on their side, right? So
Right.
when the pandemic breaks out in the spring, you had basketball, you had baseball, you had soccer, you had a lot of the other major sports were either in season or about to start their season.
Right.
Whereas football had about, a few months out before things started kicking off for them. Well, here we are, July 6th, had to double check, and things are not, great, right?
Right.
It's not looking like we can have 130,000 people in Rocky Top, Tennessee, cheering on a football game. So, and things aren't looking great for filling out stadiums and having, our favorite sport as we know it in its full capacity here in just 2 short months. So, just a little bit more to add to that, football is not one of those sports, or really there's no sport out there where you can just show up on the first game after not having an off season, not having practice and other things going on, that you can just show up on the first game and play. It takes months of preparation. You've got plays to install, you've got teammates to get to know, etc. So not only, the time's getting really short to where, practice really needs to be starting now. So
they've been prepping though, haven't they been?
well, that's
Like
going to be
workouts.
that's right. That's you're right, 100%. So individual stuff has been going on. Team stuff though, you can't undermine the aspect of that and how important that is in the grand scheme of, like I said, getting to know your teammates and et cetera. There's been Zoom stuff. There's been, at home, there's been a lot of pressure on the players to do their own workouts and stuff. So
They haven't been like on field together at all or anything?
Not much, man. Not much. So baseball just kind of kicked off, but football. So in college football, at least, the players have been reporting back to campus, and there's been, I don't know if y'all have seen some of the numbers. There's been a ton of COVID cases around the college football landscape, where players coming from their respective backgrounds are coming back to campus and getting positively tested. So I think it's kind of we're in that state right now where, like, once players are together and you have a pretty good stronghold on an outbreak, you're able to kind of get going. But there's really no perfect way. There's really no perfect way to get it going right now. So we'll see, man. We're kind of at mercy of the virus, and hopeful that things will get decently back to normal so we can watch our favorite sport.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've been into soccer, so I've been checking back in on that getting back going across the world, not just the U.S.
100%.
And all the major leagues seem to be going again. The MLS, I've seen, shoot, just dropped something, but I've been seeing Atlanta United practice and post them practicing and stuff. Kind of funny, some of them wearing face masks while they're practicing, running around
Oh,
and stuff. I
jeez.
think that's ridiculous.
That's got to be so
That's
hard,
dumb.
man.
Yeah.
As a
I
soccer
think it's
player,
It's all sweaty.
Yeah, I think it's
and
kind of
breathing
absurd
in the
anyway.
mask.
how do you breathe, man? I mean, that closes both of your breathing holes.
Yeah, for real. And then,
Your breathing
so what I
holes.
noticed that I've watched some English games, and the players and everyone. So there's nobody in the stadium. They have like this big screen next to the goal where they have like virtual fans and stuff.
Oh my god.
Oh,
What is this, Wii
dang.
soccer?
So, and it's funny because some of the smaller
Oh, dude, that's
clubs
awesome.
won't have all the slots filled all the time
Oh my
with the
gosh,
virtual
man.
that's so
fan booth.
funny.
So it's kind of funny, yeah. But it's odd because all the people that like work with the clubs and are part of the staff there are wearing masks, but then none of the players are, none of the coaches are. They're all just not wearing masks, and of course they're like all over each other. Like they're
Yeah.
playing soccer, they're running around and touching each other, especially like on a corner kick. Everyone's all in that box together, and
Mm.
so I mean, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, when these
Right.
sports players get back together, I mean, whatever spread is spread, but I mean, everyone's healthy. There's nothing to be concerned about. I haven't seen any athletes dying or anything because athletes are typically healthy already.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, like all the basketball players that tested positive, a couple months ago,
Yeah,
I mean, they're all fine, right? None of
yeah,
them had any serious complications from it.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, it's yeah.
has
100%.
anybody famous died of COVID? Do y'all know anybody like famous? Like
I
a
mean, I feel
celebrity
like
or
I've
an
heard some
athlete?
stories about like older
Older,
celebrities,
Oh.
like
people that are
in their
compromised
80s.
immune systems.
We
I
had
think
a
that's 90% of the cases and reported deaths anyway.
for
So
sure.
old
Right.
people.
Mostly in nursing homes.
You
Yeah.
know, that does remind me, just kind of off topic, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the great country singer Charlie Daniels.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
He passed away today, so pour one
Damn.
out for our boy Charlie Daniels,
Wow.
the singer of the original singer of Devil Went Down to Georgia and long haired country boy among others. So
Oh wow.
cheers
Dang.
to our cheers to that, man. I don't know if it was COVID related or not, but just a celebrity death. That just came to mind.
How old was he? Do
Right.
you know?
80, 84, 83, somewhere in that. He lived a long, healthy life. So, anyway, but I guess this is a good time for a disclaimer. None of us here have any sort of medical inclination or background whatsoever. We
Yeah,
none of us
but
are doctors,
that doesn't
none of
make
us are
us
practicing
not as
doctors.
experts. We
You
can
got
still
that
be
right.
experts for sure.
Yeah,
We're
I've seen
experts.
YouTube videos about it. So
We're experts. We're experts in tracking Tony Fauci's claims on a daily basis and adding two and two together and it not equaling four. That's what we're experts at around these parts. So anyway, we can move on to you guys can take over. My sports rant for the day is over. There's really not a ton going on right now. I will say this: I'm really excited for Braves baseball to come back. Big Braves fan. The best player on the Braves got diagnosed with coronavirus, Freddie Freeman.
Really?
That's yeah, it is. So that's a big setback. But it does kind of
He'll be
bring it
fine.
home a little bit. Yeah, 100%. He's fine. He's he does have symptoms though. It's not an asymptomatic case. He is one of the few people that like I do know that does have like symptoms and is sick and stuff. So hopefully he gets better soon. But outside of that, man, I don't have much in the sports world going on right now.
Right.
Hey, real quick, since we're on this a little bit, I do want to ask, and this was kind of pressing on my mind earlier. Blake, can you talk about some like military stuff? Like, what's going on with you guys? Like, what's your kind of lifestyle right now? Like,
If I told you anything, I'd have
as
to
much
kill
as
you.
you can. Right. Outside of that,
Yeah. So just I guess this kind of
give me top secret classified.
yeah, I was about to say
break the news
only
here.
what you're at liberty to share.
All right. The most top secret thing that I know is that the Earth is indeed flat, and
Ah,
we lived under a dome.
Dude, I knew it.
Fuck.
Trump came and did a briefing on it this morning. So
Damn.
yeah, Cameron, that's a big dub for you.
Is Q there too?
He is Q. Trump is Q.
No, he's not. No, he's not. It's Steve Bannon.
But no, just so life in the military. I guess I mean, going along with our whole coronavirus discussion. So for the majority of the time I've been up here in Charleston and just been in the military, as I'm sure you can imagine, we've been on some pretty tight restrictions with regards to the pandemic going on. Can't really do a whole lot other than go to work in some essential places, and just I mean the reasoning behind that is so obviously we can't. So I'm an instructor, and we can't do any online stuff like a lot of people in high school and universities have been doing, because most of the stuff we deal, or really all the stuff we deal with, is classified, whether it be confidential or a different classification. So we've all got to meet face to face with each other, work in offices with each other, and interact with our students. And yeah, so there's a whole lot of restrictions being placed on us to keep the mission alive. I mean, the mission at the base that I work at is to train sailors to get them ready for the fleet. Prepare them with all that baseline knowledge that they need to then carry it on into what's known as prototype school, which is where they're actually going to get hands-on experience with operating a nuclear reactor. Yeah, so other just general military life, it's definitely different than what I imagined it to be back when I um, started thinking about this back in college. It's there I don't want to say there's a lot less freedoms, because that comes out, I feel like that comes out wrong, but there's definitely a lot less things that you can do as a member of the military, because you technically work for the government. So some of the
Restrictions.
things you're not allowed to say as many things. Can't really just for example can't really protest or give your political opinion on a whole lot of things. But other than that, it's been other than some of the more restrictive things that come with being a member of the military, life is relatively normal. Other than that,
So here's a question I have for you, Blake. You may or may not want or be able to answer this question, but I want to ask it.
Okay.
Can you talk about like how your worldview has changed, or like any specifics on like your perspective that's changed since you've been in the military? This could be anything.
Yeah, so I would say the main thing that's changed with my worldview, and honestly how yeah, worldview is a perfect word for this. So I've always been a supporter of the military my entire life. I don't think I would have ever joined the military if I didn't support it. But as I think a lot of people do when they're going through college, you start to question some of the power structures and the reasoning behind why we have so much money invested in the military, and why can't this money go to other places? So those were a lot of questions that popped up in my mind just going through college. But actually being in the military and seeing and again, I'm nowhere near at the level where certain decisions are made, but just kind of seeing how the actual U.S. military works. There's some real fucking shit out there. Other countries that want to take away our freedoms and want to take away our way of life. So once you get exposed to that, you realize that the reason behind having such a strong military and having a capable military that's able to deter some of those evils away. I would say seeing how real some of the evils are around the world in terms of some hostile countries, and obviously the United States isn't perfect, the military isn't perfect. I'm sure you guys can find a bunch of examples of shitty things we've done, but in terms of our prowess as a military and our strength, like the main thing that's always been hammered into me since day one going through training was we are strong to make sure that nobody fucks with us. is the
Right.
non-PC version of that. Like
Right.
I work for the nuclear navy, and so they we have nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers that are nuclear capable, and the main goal of having those nukes is not to figure out where we're going to nuke things and like kind of weasel in and out of like what Russia and China and other nuclear powers are trying to do. It's to maintain our dominance and like keep
Carry a big stick. Carry a big stick. Like
what was
Teddy
that
Roosevelt
quote
would say.
from Theodore Roosevelt? Carry a big stick, or speak softly and carry a big stick.
And carry a big stick.
And
you got that right.
Is that like, if that isn't the message that I've got from being in the military? I mean, we literally have
100%.
posters of Theodore Roosevelt everywhere. So yeah, that's the thing. We defend our country. We've only been attacked on American soil one big time, and I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. But we're a force of deterrence to maintain as much peace as we can, and I feel like that's mainly how my worldview has been shaped.
That's awesome. So where's the nuke?
The nuke, Nuketown.
Where is it?
It's in Nuketown.
Oh god, there's gonna be so many COD references in this podcast. No man, that's awesome, and I really do like believe in this too. Like, actually, no, I don't know if I want to get into that, but basically, like our military and our country was kind of built through hard times, right? And we're kind of thankful in our lifetime, our collective lifetime. Like, we haven't really dealt with that many hard times,
For sure.
And I think that's
we've been lucky.
Primarily attributable to two things: a strong economy and three things: a strong economy, the American way of life with our freedoms and individual liberties guaranteed in our constitutional values, and our military presence that protects us on a day in, day out basis. So,
and
that's good perspective.
Another thing I'll add on top of that is, so there's like a hierarchy of like things you're meant to protect in the military, and the number one thing up there is the Constitution, maintaining that fundamental American way of life.
Wow.
So.
That's profound. Awesome. So, guys, are y'all interested in maybe getting into our listener questions? Some of these are kind of interesting.
The Instagram proposed questions we've got here.
Yeah. So,
I like these.
So I'll give a little context here, guys. Before we started the podcast, we threw a nice little question out there, just kind of testing the waters and seeing what people that might listen would be interested in hearing. So we got a few topics here that we're going to kind of run through, and then we'll close out and we'll close up shop on podcast number 1. Question 1, Brian, why don't you go ahead and ask this one?
Right. So, in this one, Garrett, you're going to have a lot of context here. So why will the Falcons never win the Super Bowl other than the fact that they're a Georgia sports team?
So, Brian, you really answered the question for me. So, yeah, we all know this. Maybe the people out there who don't live in this area know this, but Georgia sports collectively are cursed. That is a fact. I don't have the numbers in front of me. We can talk about this maybe on the next podcast after we do a lot of research. But Atlanta and the state of Georgia might be one of the most cursed sports states/towns in the entire country. You've got Cleveland. Cleveland was a notably cursed sports town. They got a championship with LeBron. He got them there. You've got places like Chicago. The Cubs got one in 2015 or 2016. So Atlanta, might be the most sports cursed town or city in the entire country. You got the Dogs giving up a lead against Tua Tagovailoa in the 2018 national championship. Georgia
Yeah,
fans?
I think it was 2018. Yeah, that was 2018.
You've got the Braves winning the NL East the last 2 years, and they have not won a playoff series since 2001. After we got obliterated by the Cardinals in Game 5 of the division series this year. Don't want to talk about it. So, yeah, I mean, collectively, we have some great regular season teams here in the state of Georgia that have not been able to put it together in the postseason. In my personal opinion on this is, I think, one way that you really overcome like the pressure of the playoffs is experience, right? Like being in it and like understanding what it takes to get over the hump. look at Boston. Look at the Boston as a sports town, right? Before, the early 2000s, they were a pretty cursed sports town. Now you look at the last 2 decades, and you got the Patriots, you've got the Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox, etc. All some of the most successful sports franchises in all sports. So, do I think we can get there? I'm not holding my breath. I don't know if any of y'all are. I'm not.
Hell no.
But it's gonna take difference makers and people who have freaking a pair of nuts to be able to withstand the pressure. And I don't know if we have. I think that right now we have it with a couple of superstars. I do think Matty Ice, our own number 2, Matt Ryan, is one of those guys. I also think Ronald Acuna, number 13 for the Bravos, is one of those guys. So we'll see, man. We need a championship in Atlanta, and I hope I'll say this. I hope it's not in 2020 because let me tell you, I do not want our sports town to be win a championship during the asterisk year.
Dude,
So,
this might be, it's a cursed year, and it might offset the Atlanta curse, dude. That
right. Oh, and real quick,
Atlanta
sorry,
United
Cameron.
won in their second year, though.
True. Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah, but that's soccer.
I know I'm not a soccer guy, but I did go to a United game and I love them, so I'm a big fan now. So cheers to those guys, man.
Great events.
Yeah, I mean, it's really so. All Atlanta teams haven't been good up until recent ever since the 2000s started. The Falcons had a little bit of some promising times with Michael Vick, and then Georgia, really didn't do anything up until 2018. When we really started getting good with Kirby Smart as our head coach.
But at least Mark Wick was a nice guy. At least he was a nice guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was a winning coach too. Like he won.
Oh, Mark. Okay, yeah, Mark. Yeah, dude,
At least he was
good
a nice
guy,
guy.
good Christian fella.
So
true American.
Real quick before we go off another tangent, just queuing up the next one. And this one, I think we'll have some fun with. So, stance on, in quotation, influencers in our social media society. What do y'all think?
Influencers. So
first,
let's define influencer because I feel like there's a lot of definitions.
As an
anybody on
influencer,
social media.
as an influencer, I'm just kidding. So, I'll give my definition. I want to hear what y'all's is on this. Yeah. So basically, an influencer is someone who wants to turn their turn a side hustle out of their social media, right? Like they have big social media followings, whether it's because they're posting, pics with their ass hanging out, or just just 90%
of influencers.
Pretty much, or they have their a streamer. I don't know, just people who basically try to turn a side hustle into their
gaming
social media.
channels.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's a new form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Entertainment's very important to society, and that's just a new dimension that's been added with the whole social media era.
Right.
I think it's more so. I definitely do think there are people that obviously monetize it. The way I interpret it is somebody that uses, some form of social media medium, whether it's, Instagram. I don't know if you can, I'm sure you can monetize Twitter, TikTok, stuff like that to build up a, we'll call a following of people who, consume their content on a regular basis. And, you'll see anything from segmented automotive YouTube channels, or you'll see the the ones that really give the word influencers a bad rap, the buy my course to learn drop shipping and become a millionaire in 3 years type crap.
Get rich quick. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So just to drive it home, in my opinion, it's, somebody that builds up a following in order to, drive home their message or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly good and bad in the influencer community.
You know what sucks? You ever had a good friend or someone and I have a name in mind. I don't think I want to say it, but I think y'all might know who I'm talking about here. You ever have a friend that and whatever, and then they turn into an influencer? How do you manage that whenever you follow them on social media when all they post about is oh yeah, follow me on this and buy, use my discount code at this website and you'll get 15% off and shit. how do you manage that? Do you unfollow them? Because I know that if y'all know who I'm talking about, I smacked an unfollow a long time ago. So I want to hear what
I
y'all
don't know
know.
who
Yeah,
you're
I can't
talking
say
about.
I do know who you're talking about.
I do not.
I don't know,
Fair.
but I'm
I don't know.
smacking
I'll talk.
unfollows all over the place.
If all you're putting
So
out there is
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
wait,
been a
what'd you
long
say?
time. It's typed in the
Interesting.
Google Doc. But
Yeah, but we're not
anyway,
gonna
boys. So
disclose that
so
here.
how would y'all handle that? Would y'all just kind of go with the flow, or would y'all just like get pissed and kind of?
I don't know. I think I'd
Um,
observe it, see how it turned out for him.
yeah,
You
I
know,
think it depends
depending
on
on how annoying it gets.
their intentions. Like I have bought some courses. For example, there's this one called Exotic Car Hacks. I mean, it's no secret, just based off some of the conversations we've had here today, that like me, Cameron, Blake, pretty much all of us have some form of interest in cars. So Exotic Car Hacks teaches you. I think I paid $200 for this back in like 2016.
Wow.
Teaches you how to responsibly buy cars and minimize the loss or the expense, and in some cases flip profit. So there are good things and bad things, and really,
Right.
you
I
know,
definitely
yeah,
do agree with that. That there's positive and negative influences out there.
For sure.
For
yeah,
sure.
handling the friends. I don't know. I just unfollow them on Instagram and don't like unfriend them on Facebook.
So boys,
It's a little more
my
serious, you know
my
what I'm
final
saying?
question on this topic: are we about to become influencers trying to promote our podcast?
yeah, I'm actually gonna put it in my Instagram
Yeah, we're gonna
bio.
promote it.
So
Link
I
down in the
mean,
basically, it
bio,
should be so.
$9.99 a year for our
Hell
subscription.
yeah!
if you, yeah,
Join my
no, I'm
Patreon.
not selling anything,
Join
Oh
bro.
my
God,
Patreon.
Patreon, bruh.
Cameron's
Oh
got an
man.
OnlyFans. You guys can all watch him on
Yeah,
OnlyFans.com.
check
Oh
me out.
geez.
Check me out. I do woodworking
Cameron's
naked.
Cameron's selling makeup on his Instagram stories. You want to get rid of wrinkles?
All right,
For
But
sure.
anyway,
so let's do this last question. I think it's we talked how earlier we might get like quote unquote deep in some topics, but I think this will help us kind of close out the podcast and really what our goals are here. So how to balance living now opposed to living for the future. And I'll start off on this. And me and Cameron were talking about this the other day, how like we've been listening to podcasts for years now, and it's something like I've always thought about, like, oh yeah, I'd love to start one at some point. It's almost like a tattoo. It's like if I don't have a reason to start one, like why would I? Um, so and really, I
Yeah,
think
when
this
did y'all
question
start
encapsulates
first?
it. So
When did
it's like,
y'all
go ahead.
when did y'all first start listening to podcasts?
Oh, like 4 or 5 years ago. So
Like it was in college?
Yeah, it was
yeah.
definitely in college for me, probably
Yeah.
junior year.
last summer.
So getting
Last
back
summer?
to it, and I know some of y'all have said, "Oh yeah, that obviously you have expressed interest because you're here today, recording this." But how to balance living for now opposed to living for the future? Again, I'll reiterate the question, and I think it's something I'd subconsciously built up this idea, like once I'm successful or once I've accomplished X, then I'll start doing some of the fun things that I wanted to do. And so, really, how to balance it, I don't know if you'd necessarily balance this versus just committing to what you want to do. And I think that's kind of what we've done here today. I don't know. I'll turn it over to y'all and see what your
So
kind of thoughts are on that.
I would say, if I were to sum it up in a sentence, the way that I view this topic is to live in the moment, but prepare for the future. So what I mean by that, we're all in our early 20s, and we can all assume a lot more risk than we can maybe in 10 years down the line when we've all got a family. So I think it's important to take some risk, maybe make some shitty investments, spend time where it might not have the best long-term payoff, but have fun while we can have fun and while we're young. But with that being said, you want to put yourself in a position that is going to set you up for the future. And so what I mean by that, while I think it's important to have fun and maybe make some impulse purchases here and now or here and there while we're starting to actually make some real money. Be smart with it and set a certain amount aside every month to put into savings. And now's the best time to learn about making investments and learn about how the stock market actually works. Putting some of that money aside to actually grow it in the future, and set yourself up to maintain success, and by the time you actually do have a family and aren't able to assume as much risk, put yourself in the best position um, to keep yourself steady, I guess.
Well
That's
said,
how I view
Cameron. Why
that.
don't you why don't
Yeah.
you go ahead, and then I'll close this off.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Blake was saying. Financially, you gotta not spend money stupid, but then also, have fun and not, be too like tight about everything. But I mean, yeah, as far as just like what you do daily, you gotta just put in the work while you're young and take those risks so that you can take your risks, like take the opportunities in front of you and everything like that. So that later on, you know, you don't have to worry about it as much.
All right, so number one, you have to have a plan. You have to develop some sort of plan if you want to live for the future, but also live in the now. Like Blake said, live in the present, but plan for the future, right? You have to have a plan. It doesn't have to be, step one, step two, step three. You just really need some kind of end goal, right? You need to have some kind of understanding of where you want to be in the future and some kind of general understanding of how you want to get there, right? So once you have a plan and an end goal, then you can kind of start laying a foundation, right? And what I mean by laying a foundation, that could be, learning, that could be absorbing knowledge, that could be networking, talking to people, just building some sort of foundational understanding of how you're going to get there, right?
Right.
Third, I mean, it's so important just to understand the value of human interconnectivity, right? Have friends. Talk to your friends about what you want to do in life. Talk to your family about what you want to do in life. Talk to your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever. Like just build that, speak it into
Manifest.
existence. Yeah,
Right.
manifest it. Exactly. Like connect with people who are like-minded to you, right? Like, listen, one thing I really struggled with in college is, I'm a very driven person. I think all four of us are here in this podcast. And, like I love a good time as much as the other jokers in the room. Trust me, like I know they're all laughing right now because they know. Like I love a good time. But the thing is like I understand where I want to be in the future. And so like I'm
Right.
not gonna make dumb decisions now that's gonna sacrifice that, right? I know how to balance it. I know how to plan. I know how to to build my foundation to get to that point, but also live in the moment to enjoy what's in front of me. Don't have your head in the clouds so much about the future that you don't enjoy the time that you're living in right now.
Right.
The present is called the present for our future because it's God's gift to us. It's our reality, right? So understand that. And then, I kind of touched on that just for a second, and we probably all don't agree on this, but, get strong in your faith. Pray, talk to God, get to know the Bible and have that faith background. And if you believe in that higher power and are faithful in the end game, then you're going to be just fine. So that's my stance on that. It's not a closed book yet, but it's I'm still learning, and I
It's a
think
work
we
in
all are. And
progress.
Yeah, I agree with that
definitely,
completely, man. Yeah, as long
definitely
as
work in
you're
progress.
as long as we're all searching for, asking those questions, about things going on around us and looking for that truth and looking for that truth, and
100%,
we're all on a good path.
Yeah, it's
100%.
important
And I just
to stay curious. Keep asking questions.
100%,
For
Keep
sure.
learning as you move through life.
That's why I'm
absolutely.
excited about this podcast, so we can,
Oh, yeah.
focus some of that energy
Yeah.
and do the research into these topics and be able to talk to it and, share what we find with other people.
100%. And boys, I know I really enjoyed this, and listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you will
I
go
think
and
we had
leave
one
us a
faithful listener the whole podcast, and everyone give a shout out to Reed
Really.
Bowman.
Hell yeah.
Reed,
dude.
motherfucking Bowman.
The Bowman's even got a shout out on this podcast. So
Love your Reed.
shout out to that.
Be one of
Yeah,
the
they
first
featured.
guests.
Reed, you're getting in on the ground floor, buddy. Ground floor is something big.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is gonna be something big, guys. I'm
Oh,
excited to see where it grows.
so Reed actually posed a question about midway through the podcast, and as we're wrapping up, I think it's a good time to talk about this. So I think one of the most important things for growing a podcast and actually growing a fan base is having some sort of consistency. coming up with a schedule, when the people can expect to have a podcast, how often they can expect a podcast from us. And obviously this is our first one, and we don't need to set anything in stone right now, but what are you guys thinking in terms of how often you guys want to do this?
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. And it's not going to be exact. We're not going to post every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but anything that gets started but that, stays consistent, we'll be here for a while. So I think what we're looking to do with the consistency of our message is try to, pop something up every 2 weeks and just have an open conversation about, what's been going on within that 2-week period, but also gaining input from, people that are listening, making Instagram polls or talking to people.
Yeah, I think these Instagram questions were super helpful.
Yeah, like mixing up
community
message
feedback
and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking twice, roughly. Not every week, but twice a week would be good.
I agree.
That's ambitious.
Yeah.
I think as long as we can kind of just get into that, and it doesn't even have to be like a set time, just as long as we're doing 2 a week,
twice a week.
If we
maintain
can't
some
do
sort of
2, then we get 1 in, and as long as we're getting 1 in a week, I think that's solid.
Yeah,
that's
if
good
I were to
consistency.
if I were to add 2 cents to this, I would say the consistency and cranking these out, we'll definitely get there. But I wouldn't bank on a consistency of message. Like, don't bank on a consistency of like one topic, or like, the topics that we discussed today don't necessarily get brought up every week. We might have something like a topic that we nail down for a podcast, whether it be real estate or sports or whatever. But, as far as like I think that's what's going to be kind of cool about our podcast is, you're not going to hear the same thing every week. Like, you're not going to hear the same message every week in a different form. So I'm excited about that.
About a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and maybe
we did. I'm excited about that.
This is running. So we're at 1 minute and 42 seconds an hour and 42 seconds right now.
Sweet.
And we'll trim it.
42 minutes or 42 seconds.
1 hour and 42 minutes.
Third time was the charm.
Okay, there you go.
1 minute, 41 seconds, and 50. God damn.
All right.
And going with all
an hour 41.
Cool.
Jesus, that was hard.
Editor, cut that shit.
No, that's safe.
But so if this is too long, maybe we can just have like one theme that we want to talk about, like a theme of the day, a theme of just a theme of the episode to kind of expound as deeply as we want to in a subject.
100%.
And just kind of go with the flow, see how this thing builds.
Yeah. So also let us know. Follow us on our social media accounts. Interact with our pages.
Get ready for some influencer posts on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
we're building the brand. Bona Fide Talk.
Boys, are all hearts and minds clear? Has everyone got everything they want to get off their chest? I'm
left smiling, satisfied.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Bona Fide Talk. We've got Brian Eduardo, we've got Cameron Campbell, we got Blake Manzer, and last and certainly least, we've got Garrett Lusk. Appreciate you guys listening. It's been fun. It's been awesome. Looking forward to next time.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. This is good.
Cheers.
Peace out.